But right now, we're focusing on what is driving all of the market action we're seeing right now and calls for when all of the volatility could come to an end. And a lot of that has to do with research and efforts being made on the vaccine front when it comes to addressing the fears around coronavirus here in the US and around the globe. And right now, the World Health Organization is giving us the update that more than 70 vaccines are currently in development globally. And a lot of those are underway here in the US, including one interesting new project from Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. We're joined right now by the CEO of Jefferson Health, Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia President Stephen Klasko joins us right now on the Google Hangout. Thanks so much for taking the time, Stephen. I was interested to see what your efforts are focused on, because rather than kind of approaching everything from scratch here, you guys are looking into building a vaccine around what has already previously been used quite effectively for rabies. So talk to me about how this would work and how potentially your guys' timeline might be different in testing this and getting it to trial quicker than some of the other vaccines out there.
Yeah, so look, this getting the vaccine out, this is not a creativity exercise. This is speed and safety. And I think a lot of the new vaccines with new carriers, the whole thing is going to be proving that those carriers are effective, they're safe, pregnant women, children. This is based off of a rabies vaccine that already 100 million are produced a year. We know it's safe in children and pregnant women, et cetera. And it just adds a SARS component, in this case, a COVID-19 component, and the rabies vaccine counts as the carrier. We've done this effectively through our vaccine center, post-Ebola and post some of the other SARS viruses.
And when you look at doing that, I mean, I assume that it would make it quicker. As you're saying, it's not an exercise in creativity. You just want to get this out there and make sure you're helping, because this is basically what a lot of people around the country are waiting for to get back to normal, would be a vaccine. But when you look at it, we're still hearing issues around the idea that even having antibodies here does not carry the same guarantee of immunity with maybe past diseases, since there's so much still unknown with COVID-19. So if that is a question, and whether or not people can actually have immunity from this, people who've already been exposed to coronavirus might get it again, potentially. If that is the case, how does that kind of dampen the idea of researching possible vaccines?
Well, look, the first thing will be proving that it creates the antibodies. And we know it's better to have the antibodies than not. And then what will happen is, as part of the clinical trials, we'll start to follow those folks and do those antibodies fade with time? Are there mutations, et cetera? But I think there's no question that a vaccine that's able to be produced in huge quantities, that's effective, will fundamentally change the game and get people back to work.
Yeah, and rolling that out, I mean, it does seem that it would make sense to assume, if you have been rolling this out at scale on the rabies front, that you would be able to do it as well here with a new novel vaccine tied to coronavirus. But when you look at it, you guys, I understand, are working with a pharmaceutical partner here as well and trying to research this. So how would your guys' kind of framework be different as a hospital and a university, potentially, versus just a pharmaceutical company going it alone, since we've seen efforts on that front as well? Are there less stringent FDA requirements to meet, or any ways to fast track it?
Well, first of all, we're working with a variety of manufacturers. So that'll be the first thing. And then we'll start clinical trials, do some animal studies, start clinical trials, hopefully within the next few months. And then it's really just a matter of who we decide to partner with as far as commercializing this. So we are not tied to one pharmaceutical or even one manufacturer.
Let me maybe just back up a little bit too, since we're talking so specifically about your guys' one vaccine, but looking at it from kind of an expert in your field, if there are so many other people also pursuing a similar solution here, does it kind of make it less, I guess, viable to put more and more resources into this if you are going to be competing against other people chasing the same thing? How does it kind of change the thinking around how you partner up with other companies out there and how you allocate resources if this is kind of an unknown?
Yeah, so Zach, what I'd say is one of the most amazing things about this pandemic is the amount of cooperation and collaboration that go on all the time. That doesn't normally happen in healthcare. Healthcare is an incredibly competitive environment. So we don't view this as a competition. I hope that the vaccine in Yale gets there as quickly as possible. This is a bit of a novel idea. And we've talked to just about every CEO of every pharma who has told us to move forward with it. So I don't view this at all as a competitive environment. I think we should all race, and we shouldn't be concerned if they're 70. I mean, there's hundreds of cancer drugs, of immunotherapy drugs that get started till it gets winnowed down to the one or two that are going to work with CAR T cells. It's the same thing. Whoever gets out there quickest and most effectively, or the two or three that get out there quickest and most effectively, I think that's going to be the best thing for the country. And if we can shave a month or two out of this, then that's fantastic. And remember, we're talking about a global crisis. So one of the other things we like about this rabies carrier, we're partnering with a manufacturer, for example, in India, and being able to get out to the rural areas of India, et cetera, with something that's already been used like that, it's going to be easier than, in our mind, than a novel vaccine.
All right, well, you have to keep us updated on how those trials go once they kick off there. But Stephen Klasko, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey investors, Zack Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.